Probably. But maybe not. What's up, guys? All Pencil here, and here we are to do a quick discussion on SUKUNA versus TAKABA and why it's weirder than you think, but probably just as weird as you think. So let's not waste any more time, and let's hop right into it. What's up, guys? All Pencil here. Fun facts, I have it on me. How dare you rebel against me? But I have it on me, and I keep it on me at all times. And the thing about SUKUNA is that he has it on him, and he keeps it on him at all times. It's a little bit smaller, but you know, when you're 1,000 years old, they tend to get smaller. You know, it's just a natural reaction to time passes. And trust me, you know, he's got other things that he's gonna whip out whenever he feels like it. But we aren't talking about SUKUNA's weaponry, to put it lightly. We're talking about SUKUNA versus kenjaku. Kenjaku's opponent, TAKABA. And realistically, being entirely honest with you, we're talking about SUKUNA versus the comedian and whether or not he could actually beat that. Because let me level with you real quick. I don't think I need to convince you that SUKUNA has better strength, better speed, better battle IQ, better general IQ, better literally everything else. But it's just that one ability. The comedian really is the question. Can SUKUNA overcome that? And here's the thing, right? You could argue he has the perfect tool to do it. The only reason I'm so skeptical about him having the perfect tool to do it is because TAKABA's main opponent also had the perfect tool to do it, but couldn't. So what does the comedian do? It literally manifests anything that TAKABA finds funny. Anything. And anything that TAKABA doesn't find funny or legally allowed to do, I guess, in terms of like the red or anything like that, that can't happen. Whether it be to TAKABA or his opponent. It's the reason why TAKABA showed up in the culling games. Yeah, the culling games, the CG, where the main thing is culling with 0 points. Like, legitimately, if he didn't run into Megami and Hazanoki and Reggie and their entire crew and get the points transferred over from Hazanoki, TAKABA would have been from confiscation, because he literally cannot take people's lives. It's something that Yuta mentions at the end of 243. It's something that's set up as early as his character introduction in his battle with Hazanoki. Bro literally cannot execute anybody. But at the same time, his opponent, seemingly enough, cannot execute him. At least not in any sort of conventional sense. Now, there are consistent debates back and forth whether or not TAKABA actually, at the end of 243, after he did his final show and took his final bow with kenjaku, but we'll assume, for the sake of SUKUNA, that TAKABA can accidentally cook himself if he finds it funny or if he's satisfied. But that's like the only win con most people have against TAKABA. The other hypothetical win con is only against pre-awakened TAKABA. And you may be looking at me funny and being like, Pencilman, what the heck is pre-awakened TAKABA? And you know exactly what pre-awakened TAKABA is. He's right behind you. It's the TAKABA before he had his whole little revelation and understood himself better in 241 and 240. It was the TAKABA that wasn't exactly sure why he was doing comedy, the one that was happy to not let everyone laugh. That TAKABA, you could argue SUKUNA would just like, I don't know, fear hacks him, or like, oh, by the way, I slaughtered thousands of people, you're going to be no different. Like, you could argue SUKUNA could do something like that. But after TAKABA gets his resolve by the end of 241 and goes into 242, he becomes an entirely different animal. While it's kind of contentious on whether or not he actually understands his curse technique, like if he knows what he's doing when he's making all the simulations and altering reality and doing all that based on his own comedic whims, it's kind of unsure whether or not he can fully understand that. But assuming that he does, in any way, shape, or form, he can kind of just lock SUKUNA in infinite comedy loop. Like, notably, as Kenjaku mentions in their battle in 242, he's taking real damage. Like, he did actually get hit by a truck. He did actually have some juice ripped out his nose. He did actually suffer in some way, shape, or form throughout all the simulations. Talk about himself, he's fine. I mean, it doesn't really matter. Those are just simulations to him. But he is genuinely altering reality. And while SUKUNA is a character with a bunch of different resistances built into him, you could argue he has some variation of spatial manipulation resistance, he has some variation of soul manipulation resistance, he has some variation of a whole bunch of different resistances. Reality warping seems just a little bit beyond his bag. At least his established one, if you ask me. Like, notably, as powerful as Satoru is, he doesn't actually reality warp. It's just spatial manipulation. I know, it sounds so weird saying it's just spatial manipulation, but it is. It's no real more complication than that. It's just spatial manipulation. So, Sukuna has no proven feats of resisting reality warping. And unlike Kenjaku, I don't see Sukuna ever playing along or attempting to do what Kenjaku did when he first started fighting Takaba and breaking down his comedy. Sukuna's a very wise fella. He's a very cool cat, if you will, but not only does he not have any real information on Takaba, Yuji and Takaba have very limited interactions on screen, and any off-panel interactions don't necessarily imply that Sukuna would know enough about the comedian to try and do anything about it. And even if he did know about the comedian and how it worked, and Sukuna's very, very smart, he'd be able to figure it out, I'm not sure if he would be able to, like, break a Awakened Takaba, because Awakened Takaba would be trying to get Sukuna to laugh. And even if he couldn't, he would just keep him there. Forever. And ever. And Sukuna would just never be able to leave. Because the thing is, right? The only thing in Sukuna's kit that explicitly, and I mean explicitly, shuts down techniques is domain amplification. But the question is, does domain amplification work if reality itself is breaking? It kind of goes into the idea of the infinity versus the deadly dismantle, the spatial cleave, the world slash, if you will. Infinity was technically still active when Sukuna sent that world slash out. But the thingamajigger about that is that it didn't matter what immunities or invulnerability that Satoru had at that moment. Simply because he existed within that space, he was affected by the technique. I think Takaba's comedian reality manipulation works just like that. It doesn't matter that Sukuna has coded himself in domain amplification and can shut down and absorb the nature of different techniques that can actually come at him as projectiles, something like that, because the comedian fundamentally alters people down to their very soul and mind. Kenjaku, who is pretty and arguably the smartest character in the entire series, the most knowledgeable, the most experienced, the most wise, and should know the most about the soul, considering he's the one who taught Sukuna and taught every other sorcerer, or even just showed them or turned them into cursed objects. And even he was unable to resist the comedian. And now, of course, Kenjaku and Sukuna are in entirely different tiers of power. I get that. But the question really becomes, can Sukuna put him down even with domain expansion? Because now I realize domain expansions don't actually turn off techniques. I know some people may be thinking that, and I thought that for the longest time too, but no, they don't. It's just the only reason it shuts down the infinity is because the attacks appear on an individual if they're used properly. Jogo didn't use it properly. So thusly, the infinity was still active. And by proxy, the comedian would still be active. So even if Sukuna went, Sukuna Mizushi, or Malevolent Shrine, pop that bad boy open, Takaba would probably just stand there and make a joke out of it. If not immediately shut it down because he doesn't find it funny. Because remember, anything that Kenjaku tried on Takaba that was supposed to be lethal, like his initial attack towards Takaba, I mean, it like scruffed up his hair a little bit. Hazanoki throwing gigantic building chunk destroying explosions, messed up his hair a little bit, made a little bit unhappy. It doesn't really do all too much. And once again, I get it. Sukuna is so much more powerful. So of course it would work, but would it though? Would it though? Like, the comedian is described to rival the Limitless. And of course, Sukuna surpassed the Limitless with the help of Maharaga. But once again, spatial manipulation versus reality warping. I don't exactly know. The battle would take 15 years, by the way. Due to the raw amount of cursed energy that Sukuna has and his efficiency of it, even if Takaba were to trap him in an infinite comedy loop, it would literally have to be infinite to run Sukuna down. Like, Sukuna would have to have no rest, Takaba would have to have no rest, they would have to go at it for years. Literal years, because of how powerful and efficient Sukuna is. But just because I don't see Takaba turning off the comedian or being convinced to turn off the comedian, or even Sukuna just deciding to play along, whether it be against his will or for his will, I just don't see Sukuna doing it. I don't. I think Takaba kind of, in a weird, twisted way, he's the strongest, yet the weakest, because he can't take anybody out. He may be able to knock somebody out, maybe, but he doesn't even do that to Hazanoki or Kenjaku. He never knocks them out. So it's entirely likely that bro is just him. He is just the strongest. However, here's the thing. Even with that being said, I still think Sukuna would win in the long run. And I say this just because on a sheer stamina front. And like, talk about running out of creativity. Like, I'm not sure if anything he do, once again, since none of his techniques are lethal, Takaba's main thing is wearing down his opponents for other people to come finish them off. It's as simple as that. That's the whole plan around kenjaku. So Sukuna would never be able to execute Kashima. He'll most likely never be able to properly beat him unless Takaba literally just got bored and gave up. But at the same time, Takaba can't really beat him. It's the ultimate stalemate, right? And I think ultimately how the battle would go is it would start fighting. Takaba's reality manipulation would immediately take over, start tearing into Sukuna's brain, manipulate him, break down his soul, do all that. They have all the funny bits. The funny bits last for like 5 days. Like, it's like the ultimate feat of just these two going at it. Different comedy sketches from all different styles, places, eras, backgrounds. Sukuna keep trying to fight back and fight back and fight back, but he doesn't have a funny bone in his body, so he ends up going along with it. And I don't know, like 10 days later, they pop out the bubble. The bubble of the reality manipulation, and Takaba just napping on the ground, still immortal, by the way, and indestructible, and Sukuna's just kicking at his body all annoyed, because Takaba most likely still would not be able to fall. He's just that weirdly powerful. He is kind of the ultimate plot. He can do literally anything, and yet accomplish seemingly nothing at all. So do I think Sukuna would win? Yes, it would just be an extreme battle of attrition. Do I think he could ever execute Kashimo? Oh, of course, he executes Kashimo all the time. But Takaba, I don't see it. I don't see it. Even with the World Cleave, even with Malevolent Shrine, even with Malevolent World Cleave, I do not see it. But that's what I think. Please what you guys think in the comment section down below. I want to thank you so much for watching. If you made it all the way to the end of the video, please leave the funny king in the comment section down below. And thank you guys so much for watching. Once again, please remember to leave a like, share, comment, and subscribe, and make sure you hit that little notification bell so you do not miss out on any of the section of the channel. Also, I do have a Patreon down below. You can refer as low as $1 a month to get things like exclusive videos, early content, and more. You can also become a member of the channel for as low as $3 a month to get the same perks and more. Some of those perks will include the live reaction to the next chapter of Jujutsu Kaisen. Now, I want to thank you guys so much for watching once again, and I hope you guys have a wonderful day. This is Dad with the Pencil, writing off. I'd like to give a thank you to our $3 members, Wakanda Plays, Red Wolf 4765, and Greyhound. I'd like to give another thank you to our $5 patrons, Winter, Victor, Sean, Midnight Gemlord, Kevin, and Demix LND. I'd like to give a scrumptious thank you to our $7 member, Autumn's Morning Lazo. And I'd like to give another chunka-dunka thank you to our $10 patrons, Robbie Uchiha, Joaquin, and Idem Okami. I'd like to give another thank you to our $25 member, Alex Ice Rose. I'd like to give a hefty, thank you to our two $25 patrons, Calvin Elder and Igneel.